My mother tried to cancel my wedding, told my family I was pregnant, then stood during the ceremony and said, "You can still come home." I smiled. Too late. I married my wife last month. For clarity, I'm a woman, and the person I was marrying was also a woman. My mother insisted that wasn't the problem. Everything she did suggested otherwise. When Olivia and I announced our engagement, I expected a little awkwardness from certain relatives. Not because our relationship was new, but because some people still treated it like something temporary they didn't need to take seriously. Olivia and I had been together for almost 4 years. We lived together, shared expenses, spent holidays with each other's families, and had already discussed the difficult parts of marriage most couples avoid until later. We knew what we wanted. The people who spent time with us knew too. My mother, Brenda, acted as though Olivia had appeared without warning. I called her the night after the proposal. "Mom, Olivia and I are engaged." Silence. It lasted long enough that I checked the screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Finally, she said, "So this is actually happening?" "Yes." "And whose name are you taking?" "We haven't decided." "You're not taking that woman's name, are you?" "That woman." Not Olivia. Not my partner. Not the person who had supported me through grief, anxiety, and the slow process of learning how to build a life outside my mother's control. Just that woman. Olivia was sitting at the kitchen table, turning the empty ring box between her fingers. She tried to look away, but the apartment was quiet enough for her to hear. "I'm not discussing names right now," I said. "I'm only asking." "No, you're making a point." My mother sighed. "You've become so defensive." I ended the call before she could turn my engagement into an argument. Olivia looked at me carefully. "How bad was it?" "She needs time." "You don't believe that." I leaned against the counter. "No, but I want to." She stood and wrapped her arms around me. Olivia never told me to cut my mother off. She never demanded that I choose between them. She simply noticed whenever I was pretending something didn't hurt. My mother had always struggled when I made decisions without consulting her. When I was younger, she called it concern. If I wanted to stay overnight at a friend's house, she worried about the parents. If I considered work farther from home, she worried about the commute. If I dated someone she disliked, she worried I was being manipulated. Every choice became proof that I was in danger. Every solution involved staying near her. For years, I excused it because my father, Samuel, was sick. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer when I was 19. I stayed at home much longer than I had planned because he needed help and because leaving while we knew our time with him was limited felt impossible. I drove him to appointments. I prepared meals when he could still eat. I sat beside him during the nights when pain kept him awake. I don't regret staying. What I didn't realize was that my mother had begun treating my presence as permanent. After my father died, she expected me to continue living exactly as I had while caring for him. When I first mentioned moving out, she cried. When I signed a lease, she told relatives I had abandoned her. When I took the reading chair my father had specifically left to me, she accused me of stripping the house of memories. She behaved as if building a future meant erasing my past. Then I met Olivia. She didn't pull me away from my family. She asked questions I had never been willing to ask myself. Why do you tense up when your mother calls? Why do you apologize before you've done anything wrong? Why does every conversation end with you changing your plans? Those questions changed the way I understood my relationship with my mother. According to Brenda, that proved Olivia was controlling me. After the engagement, I stopped giving my mother details she could criticize or use against us. We went weeks without speaking unless something important came up. That worked until wedding planning made the engagement impossible for her to ignore. My grandmother, Virginia, offered to host the ceremony at her home. The property wasn't designed for weddings. The ground was uneven, parking was limited, and the wooden gazebo in the backyard needed repainting. But the garden had been planted by my late grandfather, Walter. Maple trees lined the fence, a stone path led from the house to the gazebo, and a small pond sat near the edge of the property. When I was little, my father used to take me there to feed the ducks. Getting married in that garden felt like the closest I could come to having him there. Virginia also offered to help pay for the cake. She had strong opinions about desserts, so Olivia and I invited her to the tasting. She rejected nearly everything. The lemon is too sharp. The chocolate tastes artificial. The strawberry is trying too hard. Olivia slid another sample toward her. How does a cake try too hard? Virginia took a bite and pointed her fork at her. You know it when you taste it. Eventually, she approved vanilla cake with raspberry filling. The raspberry gives it purpose, she announced. Olivia laughed. For the first time since the engagement, I felt genuine excitement from someone in my family. That afternoon, Virginia called my mother and mentioned the tasting. I learned about their conversation later. Your mother seemed surprised, Virginia told me. About the cake? About the wedding. My stomach tightened. What did she say? Virginia hesitated. She asked if you were really going through with it. What were her exact words? She said, "Oh, they're actually getting married." Olivia looked up from the guest list. I put the call on speaker. Virginia continued. I told her I thought it was strange that she wasn't more involved. I said perhaps you would include her if she showed some interest. I closed my eyes. Virginia believed she had defended me. What she had actually done was expose my mother's behavior. Brenda could dismiss our relationship in private. She could call Olivia, that woman, and pretend the wedding was only an idea. But now someone else had noticed that she was acting like a mother who didn't care about her daughter's marriage. My mother hated being seen clearly. She called that night. The moment I answered, she was already shouting. So now you're talking about me behind my back? I wasn't part of that conversation. My own mother is accusing me of not caring about you. Maybe she noticed you haven't shown any interest. Don't turn this around on me. Olivia sat beside me on the couch and took my hand. What do you want? I asked. I want to understand why you're doing this. Doing what? This entire wedding. This performance. It isn't a performance. You barely know her. I've been with Olivia for almost 4 years. You don't know what she does when you aren't around. My fingers tightened around the phone. What is that supposed to mean? It means normal people don't become this interested in someone like you without an agenda. For a second, I couldn't respond. Someone like me. As if being loved required an explanation. My mother continued. She could be hiding anything. Have you ever checked her background? Olivia isn't hiding anything. How would you know? Because I know her. You think you do. Olivia's hand went still in mine. My mother raised her voice again. Your wedding is suspicious. It's in a backyard. There's no church. There's no proper venue. Nothing about it is traditional. Traditional for whom? You know what I mean. Yes, I said. I think I do. This is not about her being a woman. I didn't say it was. You were thinking it. Because you keep saying things that make it obvious. I have no problem with your lifestyle. There it was. Lifestyle. I'm hanging up. No, you're not. You need to hear this. You have become hateful since you moved out. I stopped letting you control every decision. That is Olivia talking. No, that is me. You never spoke to me like this before. She was right. Before I moved out, I would have apologized. Before therapy and distance, I would have absorbed every accusation until I believed I was responsible for her feelings. You don't even sound like my daughter anymore, she said. I looked at Olivia. Her eyes were wet, but she held my gaze. Maybe you never let me sound like myself. My mother fell silent. For a moment, I thought I had reached her. Then she said, your grandmother isn't hosting the wedding anymore. I sat upright. What? She changed her mind. No, she didn't. Yes, she did. But don't panic. I'll handle it. My thoughts stalled. What did you do? I didn't do anything. She finally realized the backyard wouldn't work. We already planned the rentals. It will be cold. There aren't enough bathrooms. The neighbors might complain. People could damage the property. We discussed all of that. She's worried about liability. We're getting event insurance. She doesn't want people drinking near the pond. We're serving a limited amount of alcohol. My mother softened her voice. There's a hotel near my house with a ballroom. I can pay the deposit. You'll have a proper venue and no one will have to worry. We don't want a ballroom. You're upset. You aren't thinking clearly. That was when I understood what she had tried to do. She wanted to destroy the wedding we had planned, replace it with one she controlled, and then present herself as the person who saved us. What did you say to Grandma? Nothing that wasn't true. I ended the call and immediately called Virginia. She answered after several rings. Grandma, did you cancel the wedding? I didn't cancel it. Mom says you don't want it at your house anymore. I think perhaps we should consider other options. Why? Your mother raised some concerns. What concerns? The parking. The weather. The insurance. The pond. The neighbors. We already handled those. She also said you and Olivia have been arguing. We haven't. She said you were reconsidering. I'm not. Virginia lowered her voice. She thinks you may still be struggling with your father's death and making a permanent decision because you're grieving. That one hurt more than the others. My mother had taken the deepest loss of my life and turned it into evidence that I couldn't trust myself. Did Mom ask you to cancel? She didn't use that word. What did she say? She said I would be enabling a mistake. Olivia sat beside me listening. Do you believe her? I don't know what to believe. You spent time with us today. I know. You offered your home. I did. Then why did one phone call change everything? Virginia had no answer. My mother's behavior was familiar. I knew how to defend myself against it. My grandmother's uncertainty hurt differently. She had laughed with us that morning. By evening, she was ready to take everything back because Brenda had spoken with enough confidence. I ended the call and spent the next 2 days trying to accept that the garden might be gone. Olivia found me sitting on the bathroom floor after midnight. She lowered herself beside me. We can find another venue. I don't want another venue. I understand. It isn't about saving money. I know what it means to you. I stared at the floor. I wanted one place where Dad still felt close. She reached for my hand. Then don't give it up because your mother frightened someone. I'm tired of fighting. You don't have to fight tonight. She stayed with me until I was ready to stand. The next morning, I asked Virginia to meet me. We sat at her kitchen table while rain tapped against the windows. I brought the insurance information, the parking plan, the rental agreement, and our cleanup arrangements. I placed everything in front of her. These answer the practical concerns, I said. But this was never really about parking. Virginia stared at the documents. No, it wasn't. Do you want us to get married here? Yes. Do you support my relationship? She looked up. Yes. Then I need you to make that decision yourself. Her eyes filled. Your mother gets so forceful. She makes everything sound like an emergency. I thought letting her arrange another venue might keep the peace. For whom? Virginia looked toward the window. If you cancel, Mom gets what she wants, I said. You avoid an argument. Olivia and I lose the place we chose. She wiped beneath one eye. You're right. I need more than that. Virginia took a slow breath. The wedding will stay here. And if Mom calls again? I'll tell her the decision is mine. And if she threatens not to attend? Virginia hesitated. I need you to invite her. My chest tightened. She tried to make you cancel. I know. She insults Olivia. I know that too. Then why should she be there? Because she is still my daughter. And I'm your granddaughter. Virginia looked ashamed. I'm not asking you to involve her. She doesn't need access to vendors, contracts, or planning. But I cannot host a family wedding while banning my own daughter from the property. I wanted to refuse. Part of me believed I should. Then I looked through the window at the gazebo and the pond where my father used to stand with me. What happens if she causes a scene? She leaves. Will you support that? Virginia swallowed. Yes. I wasn't certain she would hold the boundary when the moment came. But I agreed. My mother would be invited as a guest. Nothing more. She would not contact vendors. She would not receive schedules, passwords, or legal information. She would have no authority over the ceremony. When she learned the venue was no longer changing, she called me. Apparently you pressured your grandmother. I gave her the facts. You made her feel guilty. I asked her to make her own decision. You're determined to have everything your way. It's my wedding. A wedding is about family. Then start behaving like family. She ended the call. For a while, I thought she would sulk and keep her distance. Instead, she changed tactics. A week later, she called while Olivia and I were making dinner. I kept the conversation brief. Then my mother asked, is Olivia there? Yes. Can she hear me? Not unless I put you on speaker. Good. Something in her voice made me stop. What do you want? I need to ask you something. Ask. Are you pregnant? I thought I had misheard her. What? You heard me. No. I'm not pregnant. Are you sure? Yes, Mom. You've been emotional. I've been emotional because you tried to cancel my wedding. And your clothes looked tighter the last time I saw you. That wasn't true. It also wasn't the point. What are you trying to say? I'm concerned. No, you aren't. Does Olivia know? The room seemed to go quiet. Know what? That you might be pregnant. Olivia had stopped chopping vegetables. There was no reason for my mother to believe I was pregnant. I hadn't mentioned fertility treatment. I hadn't seen a doctor. There had been no announcement or rumor. The only explanation was that she wanted Olivia to believe I had slept with a man. You're implying I cheated on her. I didn't say that. You didn't need to. If your relationship is strong, a question shouldn't hurt it. That sentence revealed exactly what she was doing. She wasn't sharing a concern. She was testing for cracks. I put the call on speaker. Mom, repeat what you just asked. Silence. Go ahead. I don't appreciate being ambushed. You asked whether Olivia knew I might be pregnant. Olivia leaned closer to the phone. Brenda, Hannah is not pregnant. My mother's voice became falsely gentle. I hope not, dear. Olivia's expression hardened. What is that supposed to mean? It means this wedding is stressful enough without surprises. The only surprise, Olivia said, is how far you're willing to go to damage your daughter's relationship. I don't know what Hannah has told you about me. She doesn't need to tell me. I can hear you. My mother ended the call. I stood in the kitchen shaking. Olivia placed the knife down and wrapped her arms around me. I don't believe her, she said. Not for a second. I pressed my face against her shoulder. I know. It's the fact that she tried. The next morning, my sister, Wendy, called. You need to know what Mom is saying. I sat down in my car. What now? She told Aunt Cynthia you're pregnant. I closed my eyes. She told Uncle George too. She said you're rushing into the wedding because something happened. There is no something. I know. But she sounds certain, so people are listening. By that afternoon, 2 relatives had sent cautious messages. One told me families could survive unexpected situations. Another said she hoped Olivia was being understanding. I answered neither. That evening, I sent my mother a single message. Stop telling relatives I am pregnant. It is false, invasive, and deliberately harmful to my relationship. You will receive no further wedding information from me. She responded immediately. I never said you were definitely pregnant. I said I was concerned. I blocked her number. For 2 weeks, planning became peaceful. Olivia and I confirmed the caterer, selected the ceremony music, ordered small lanterns for the garden path, and rented heaters in case the weather turned cold. Her parents, Angela and Keith, helped without trying to take control. Keith measured the gazebo and built a temporary step so Virginia could use it safely. Olivia's brother, Logan, volunteered to direct parking. He also agreed that if my mother became disruptive, he would calmly escort her away. Nobody treated helping us like a burden. Nobody behaved as if our marriage needed to be prevented. Eventually, I unblocked my mother because Virginia had made her invitation part of the venue agreement, and we needed one direct way to send arrival instructions. I muted her calls and kept all communication in writing. She received the time, dress expectations, and where to park. Nothing else. Minor details still reached her through relatives, but no one had access to vendor passwords, contracts, or legal documents. Once she realized open attacks were getting her nowhere, she began speaking as if my relationship were about to end on its own. First, she asked me to move back into her house temporarily. No. You could save money before the wedding. Olivia and I already share a home. I meant you could stay here. Without Olivia? It would only be for a few months. I'm getting married. You would still have your room. My home is with Olivia. A week later, she said she was considering selling her house and buying something smaller. That sounds reasonable, I said. Maybe something with 3 bedrooms. For you and Wendy? For all of us. I waited. You, me, and your sister, she continued. Like before. That isn't happening. You could still have a room. I don't need a room in your house. Her voice tightened. She has her own family. So do I. That's exactly my point. No, Mom. It isn't. On my birthday, Wendy convinced me to have lunch with our mother. I almost canceled, but Olivia offered to come. For the first part of the meal, Brenda behaved normally. She gave me a sweater, brought a cake from the bakery my father used to like, and asked whether the rental chairs had arrived. Then she cut herself another slice and said, "It's strange how quickly life can change." I said nothing, but things have a way of returning to normal. Wendy looked at her. What does that mean? Nothing. My mother smiled at me. I just think everything will be all right again soon. Everything is all right now. You know what I mean? No, I don't. She changed the subject and asked whether I still spoke to a man I had dated years earlier. Olivia was sitting beside me. No. He always seemed nice. We broke up a long time ago. What about the tall one? I haven't spoken to him since before I met Olivia. My mother tilted her head. That's a shame. Olivia placed her fork down. Why? My mother blinked innocently. Why what? Why is it a shame? He and Hannah were close. We dated briefly, I said. That's all. I'm only remembering. No. You're trying to make Olivia uncomfortable. Her smile disappeared. I don't know what you mean. You keep talking as though I'm going to leave her and move back into your house. I never said that. You said everything would return to normal. I meant our family. This is my normal now. My mother looked from me to Olivia. Then she said, we'll see. 2 quiet words. They stayed with me after we left. That night, I couldn't sleep. Olivia was still awake beside me. What if she does something at the wedding? I asked. The vendors have passwords. Virginia won't approve changes without speaking to us. Logan will be there. She keeps acting as though she knows something we don't. She wants you to feel uncertain. What if she interrupts the ceremony? Olivia turned toward me. What would make you feel safe? I stared at the ceiling. My mother seemed most powerful when she believed my future was still negotiable. The venue could be changed. The ceremony could be interrupted. The paperwork could be delayed. As long as the marriage had not happened, she could tell herself there was still time to stop it. Then the answer came to me. What if we were already married? Olivia stared at me. Before the wedding? Yes. Legally? Yes. A slow smile appeared on her face. When? As soon as possible. Hannah, are you proposing to me again? I'm proposing that we quietly marry each other before my mother turns the ceremony into a hostage negotiation. That may be the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. I'm serious. So am I. We went to the county clerk's office early the following week and applied for our marriage license. We told only 3 people. Wendy, because I wanted my sister there. Patrick, because he was ordained and verified that he met the local legal requirements to perform the ceremony. And Grace, Olivia's childhood best friend, because she was scheduled to lead our public ceremony and needed to know the legal portion would already be complete. Once the license was valid, we chose Friday evening. Patrick asked where we wanted to do it. The courthouse didn't have a ceremony appointment available. Our home felt too ordinary. Renting another venue seemed unnecessary. Then Olivia said, what about Maple Corner? Maple Corner Diner was where we had celebrated after getting engaged. The nicer restaurants had been fully booked, so we had ended up in a corner booth eating burgers and endless fries while staring at the ring on my hand. Somewhere along the way, the diner had become ours. Friday evening, the 5 of us squeezed into Wendy's car. We stopped for coffee first. Wendy spilled part of hers while climbing into the back seat, and Patrick complained that his shirt smelled like caramel. By the time we reached the diner, we were already laughing. There were no flowers. No professional photographer. No formal clothes. Olivia wore a dark green sweater. I wore a simple cream blouse under my coat. Wendy and Grace stood as our witnesses. Patrick positioned himself beside the table, trying not to block the aisle. A server named Katie slowed down when she realized what was happening. Patrick cleared his throat. We are gathered here today. At Maple Corner Diner, Olivia added. To join Hannah and Olivia in marriage, he continued, despite their complete refusal to choose a location where I can stand without inconveniencing the staff. I laughed so hard my eyes watered. Then Patrick's expression softened. Olivia, do you take Hannah to be your wife? Olivia looked directly at me. The conversations around us seemed to fade. I do, she said. You're the person I trust when life becomes difficult. You're the person I want beside me in every version of the future. I choose you today, and I will keep choosing you. My throat tightened. Patrick turned to me. Hannah, do you take Olivia to be your wife? I looked at the woman who had never asked me to become smaller so she could feel secure. I do. You gave me room to become myself without asking me to abandon the people I love. I choose you completely, without fear and without anyone else's permission. Wendy began crying. Grace was already wiping her eyes. Patrick pronounced us married. Olivia kissed me while strangers at nearby tables applauded. Katie returned with a slice of chocolate cake and 2 forks. On the house, she said. We signed the license beside a basket of fries. Patrick returned it for official recording the next business day. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't carefully staged. It was ours. Outside, Olivia held up her hand and smiled. So, wife, what happens now? I looked back at the diner through the window. Now we have a wedding. Once the marriage was officially recorded, my mother still believed she had several weeks to stop us. For the first time, that didn't frighten me. She could complain about the venue. She could spread rumors. She could interrupt the public ceremony. Nothing she did could undo our marriage. 3 days before the wedding, she called Virginia and urged her to postpone. Virginia contacted me immediately. Your mother says there are unresolved issues. What issues? She wouldn't explain. Are you postponing? No. That single answer meant more than Virginia probably understood. She said you might thank me later if I stopped you, Virginia continued. I won't. I told her that. For the first time, my grandmother had not allowed my mother's certainty to become her own. The morning of the wedding was colder than expected, but the sky was clear. Heaters stood beneath the reception tent. Lanterns lined the stone path. The maple leaves had turned deep orange and red. From an upstairs window, I watched Olivia's family arranging the final chairs. For a moment, I pictured my father in the garden. Not as he looked near the end, exhausted and in pain. I remembered him laughing beside the pond, holding food for the ducks and calling me over because I was busy searching for smooth stones. I touched the small photograph of him tucked inside my bouquet. You ready? Wendy asked behind me. She wore a dark blue dress and carried a bag filled with tissues, safety pins, and snacks. I think so. Mom is here. My stomach tightened automatically. How does she seem? Too quiet. That's never good. She asked where the marriage license was. What did you say? That Grace had everything handled. Anything else? She wanted to know whether it would be signed during the ceremony and whether an interruption could delay the filing. My pulse quickened. What did you tell her? That I didn't know. Does she suspect we're already married? I don't think so. She assumes the legal part is happening today. I waited for panic. It never came. Let her believe that. The ceremony began shortly before sunset. Olivia waited beneath the gazebo in an ivory suit. The moment I saw her, the guests faded from my awareness. I walked through the garden with Virginia beside me, carrying my father's photograph inside my bouquet. Halfway down the path, she squeezed my arm. I'm glad you made me reconsider, she whispered. I'm glad you did. When I reached the gazebo, Olivia smiled and silently mouthed one word. Wife. I almost laughed. Grace welcomed everyone and spoke about marriage as a choice people make repeatedly, not a perfect feeling that simply happens to them. Then she asked us to face each other. Olivia took my hands. My mother sat in the second row. She wasn't smiling. Her eyes kept moving from Grace to us, then toward the small table where she assumed the paperwork was waiting. Olivia gave her vows first. She promised to protect our peace, tell me the truth even when it was difficult, and never use my fears as weapons against me. Then it was my turn. I spent a long time believing love had to be earned through obedience, I said. I thought keeping someone happy was the same thing as keeping a relationship healthy. You taught me that real love does not require fear. It does not ask me to disappear. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. With you, I am not less connected to my family, my past, or the people I have lost. I am more myself. My mother shifted in her chair. I promise to choose our life even when that choice disappoints someone else. I promise to defend the home we are building. And I promise that nobody outside this marriage will ever be allowed to decide whether it deserves to exist. Grace began the final declaration. That was when my mother stood. A murmur moved through the guests. I need to say something, she announced. Grace remained calm. This is not a moment for interruptions. My mother stepped into the aisle. Hannah, you don't have to do this. Olivia tightened her hold on my hands. For months, I had imagined this exact moment. I had pictured myself freezing, crying, trying to calm everyone. Instead, I felt steady. You can still stop, my mother said. You can come home. We can fix this before it becomes permanent. Virginia began to rise, but I shook my head. I wanted to answer for myself. Mom, it already is permanent. Her expression changed. What? I glanced at Olivia. She nodded. We got married last month. The garden went silent. My mother stared at us. You what? We are already legally married. That isn't true. It is. You didn't tell me. No. You lied to me. I protected my marriage from someone who kept trying to stop it. Her face flushed. You let me come all this way for a ceremony that doesn't even count? It counts to us. The only part you lost the chance to interfere with was the paperwork. My mother turned toward Virginia. You knew. Virginia shook her head. No. Then Brenda pointed at Olivia. This was her idea. It was mine, I said. She manipulated you. No. She supported me. You never would have done something like this before meeting her. I took a slow breath. You're right. For half a second, my mother looked victorious. Then I continued. Before I met her, I believed you had the right to control me. Her expression collapsed. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her. You tried to cancel the venue. You told relatives I was pregnant because you wanted Olivia to believe I had cheated. You asked me to leave her and move back into your house. You kept bringing up former relationships as though my marriage were temporary. I spent months waiting for you to act like my mother instead of someone trying to defeat me. I was protecting you. From what? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. From being happy without you? Her eyes filled with tears. For most of my life, seeing my mother cry would have ended the confrontation. I would have apologized even when I had been hurt. This time, I felt sad. But I did not feel responsible. You humiliated me, she whispered. I didn't make you stand up. Virginia stepped into the aisle. Brenda, you can sit down quietly or leave. My mother stared at her. You're choosing this over your own daughter? No, Virginia said. I'm telling my daughter to stop ruining her daughter's wedding. My mother looked around. Nobody rushed to defend her. Nobody begged her to stay. She picked up her purse and walked out of the garden. The door to the house closed behind her. For several seconds, nobody moved. Grace turned toward us. Would you like to continue? I looked at Olivia. Tears were running down her cheeks, but she was smiling. Yes, I said. We would. Grace faced the guests. It is my honor to present Hannah and Olivia as wives. We kissed beneath the gazebo while our families and friends stood and applauded. The reception didn't return to normal immediately. At first, people spoke quietly. A few relatives avoided looking at me. Someone asked Wendy whether my mother was coming back. But gradually, the tension lifted. People ate. They danced. Virginia gave a speech about my father and how proud he would have been to see me standing in the garden. Logan told an embarrassing story about the first time I met Olivia's family. Then Wendy admitted during her toast that she had witnessed our legal ceremony at Maple Corner Diner. She nearly dropped the rings into the pretzel bites, Grace added. I did not, Wendy protested. You absolutely did. Everyone laughed. Virginia pretended to be offended that she hadn't been invited. You would have told Mom, Wendy said. Virginia considered it. Yes, I probably would have. That's why. Fair enough. Later that night, Olivia and I walked toward the pond. Music drifted from the reception tent. Our breath was visible in the cold air. Are you okay? She asked. I think so. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. I'm not pretending. I watched the lanterns reflected across the water. It hurts because I finally stopped waiting for her to become the mother I needed. Olivia rested her head against my shoulder. And how does that feel? Painful. I looked back toward the garden. Virginia was laughing with Angela. Keith was moving chairs away from the dance area. Wendy was arguing playfully with Patrick near the dessert table. These people had shown up because they wanted to celebrate us, not control us. Free, I added. My mother didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. She told relatives I had deceived her. She claimed Olivia had isolated me. She said I had staged the confrontation to embarrass her. Some people believed her. Most didn't. For once, I stopped correcting every version of the story. Anyone who wanted the truth could ask me directly. A few relatives apologized for believing the pregnancy rumor. Others disappeared when I refused to pretend nothing had happened. Virginia began seeing a therapist after the wedding. She didn't change overnight. She still hesitated when my mother became angry and struggled to say no without explaining herself. But she began recognizing the pattern. She admitted she had spent years giving in because resistance felt exhausting. She finally understood that avoiding conflict didn't erase the consequences. It only passed them to someone else. A few months later, Wendy moved out of my mother's house. My mother blamed me for that too. Wendy told me something I still think about. She didn't lose us because you turned us against her. She lost control because you proved we were allowed to leave. Olivia and I still visit Maple Corner Diner. Katie remembers us and calls us the Booth Brides. Our formal wedding photograph hangs in our living room, but beside it is a blurry picture Wendy took at the diner. In it, Olivia and I are laughing across a table covered with coffee cups, fries, and legal documents. It isn't elegant. It isn't posed. But it captures the moment I understood that our marriage was not something my mother could approve, cancel, or destroy. It belonged to us. I still love my mother. That is the part some people struggle to understand. Distance doesn't always mean love disappeared. Sometimes it means loving someone closely became too expensive. My mother and I speak occasionally now. The conversations are brief. She isn't allowed to insult Olivia, question our marriage, or use relatives to pass messages. When she crosses a boundary, the conversation ends. She says I'm cold. Maybe I am compared with the daughter she remembers. That daughter confused guilt with loyalty. She believed peace meant keeping everyone else comfortable, no matter what it cost her. I don't want to be that version of myself again. My mother was right about one thing. After the wedding, life returned to normal. Just not her version of it. My normal is waking up beside my wife. It is visiting Virginia without wondering whether my mother will take over the room. It is answering calls only when I choose to. Sometimes I still wonder whether secretly marrying Olivia was dishonest. We allowed my mother to believe she could stop the wedding. Then, when she tried to interfere in front of everyone, I revealed that she was already too late. Part of me wonders whether I should have told her privately. Another part believes she would have found a different way to make our marriage about her. So was I wrong to keep the marriage secret until my mother interrupted the ceremony, or was it the only way to protect the life she kept trying to take from us?